Everybody, and welcome to an exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. This is one of those rare instances. This is actually, I think, the first time I've done a director's cut or a second take, because the person joining me today is Rashad Doucet. And Rashad, welcome back to the show.
Hi guys. How's everybody? How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. The last time we talked, you are a busy man. You had a co-host, co-guest situation happening, and yeah. So
Yeah,
anything you want to hat tip about that?
yeah, sure. Well, last time I had my daughter with me, Tova, and
Mhm.
normally does not seem to, care when I'm on Zoom, but for some reason, this she just really wanted to be a part of it. So a little bit hard to keep my focus in the question and answers. And
I
she was great. I think she was great as a whole. She's always great, but
Nova was great. She was great. She at the very end, um, and this still exists out there in audio, although we might share this one instead. We'll see. At the very end, I said bye. We said our goodbyes, and the last part of the recording is her going bye. So that
okay.
was just it was a lovely interview. I will share it with you if nothing else,
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
but
I
yeah.
do want to just have it. My wife really thought it was cute too, so she really liked it. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And these are the things that treasure these moments, right? Like
yeah,
that's
you're
that's
right.
just the
Yeah,
beauty of it. That's the
you're
beauty
right.
of it. But I can see how that would add, a little bit of
Thank
busyness
you.
to your day. And you got a
Yeah.
guy like me over here asking you questions, and you're also facilitating parenting, doing those kind of things. So I appreciate you jumping in the last time
Yeah.
along with Tova and meeting with me, and glad to meet with you today as well. You were joined today by some other friends. It looks like I see. I think it's Mighty Mouse back there. There's some Voltron that's happening. There's certainly Spider-Man, and then I think I also might see, is that Rogue or Jubilee? There are a
Yeah,
couple
well,
of
I
different.
got Sailor Moon, not Mighty Mouse, but Astro Boy,
Oh boy,
Space
Astro
Ghost,
Boy.
Storm as a Sokka from Avatar, Wonder Woman. A good bit
Oh
of
yeah.
smorgasbord of characters. Creed, Apollo Creed. I mean, not Apollo, Adonis Creed. So
Nice. I love it. I love it. I continue to enjoy your social media posts where you have, I think today was like Street Fighter meets Power Ranger. Is that
yeah,
how
the
that
Street
was?
Fighter Power Ranger figures. Yeah. The what if the Street Fighters could also be Power Rangers? It's
I
a real
love
thing.
it.
I mean, it's an actual figure thing you can buy, you guys.
Love it. Love it. And that reminds me, one of the things that bubbles to my mind from the last time we talked was just the way that you sort of take things that you love, ideas that you love, and you kind of weave them together into these different characters and different stories. So it's such a
Mhm.
such a cool thing. And
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
yeah, I grew up playing with action figures, of course. So that storytelling, it's just part of us, isn't it? It's just amazing.
You, yeah, honestly, you bring up, I mean, bringing it up brings up how I actually started. Like before I wrote anything down and before I would draw, but before I actually really started thinking about storylines, I actually did storylines with my toys when I was even smaller. Like I'd rename characters. I'd rename, I had a G.I. Joe I renamed before this was a Blade comic that I was aware of, but renamed this
Hmm.
G.I. Joe named Blade, and Blade went all these adventures, and Nightcrawler lived in a skyscraper with a bookshelf, and I had like these huge epic storylines involving my toys. And honestly, I think it was my grandmother started telling me to start writing my own things down. It really made me start to really go towards comics and really delve in deep. But yeah, my toys were everywhere. I used to have like GI Joe wars throughout my whole grandparents' house, like full on sections. This is one part of the living room is another country. My room is the base, and like just had these huge wars all the time.
Oh yeah, and when you're a kid, anything can turn into kind of a play set. I mean, of course, all of the companies sell their own play sets, but I remember my dad would have cinder blocks in the front yard or the backyard, and so those became
Yeah,
towers. Or oh,
yeah.
that like old tube or old like coffee can. That's a perfect place. I mean, if Batgirl needs a place to drive out of on her motorcycle, I mean, that's happening. That's happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and
yeah,
I just still do that. I still just do it now. I just take photos of it in the
yeah.
stage, but I still do it.
Well, and why not? I mean, action figures. from the time that I was a kid, they've gotten so much more complex. Hats off to Todd McFarlane. He's a
Yes.
regular listener on the show, of course. Todd McFarlane out there. Kidding. He's I'm sure he's never heard this. But yeah, the way that he's taken action figures in kind of new territory, and as a kid of the '80s, like we got
Yep.
superpowers again now, thanks
Yeah.
to Todd McFarlane. So
Yeah, say
um,
something funny. You go right to Walmart to get all your figures back.
that's right. That's right. That is exactly
I actually
right.
have them. I have some of them like literally not that far away from this chair. Actually, the top and falling superpowers.
Oh yeah. Well, and of course, there's the nostalgia part of that. As adults now, there are all those things that come back. But
Mhm.
um, I envy your ability to take the things that are in your mind and put them on paper. Somewhere around here, I've got my own Pigma microns, but you can see I haven't even opened the package yet because I'm just like should probably take a class. Like
Sometimes you gotta draw. Sometimes you gotta get it out.
yeah. I'm pretty inspired to do that, and I think I need to actually put pen to paper.
There it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
always the start, man. I mean, I'm a teacher, obviously at the at SCAD. I'm a professor, but before then, I also taught. So much. I taught. In my so I started teaching actually. My see was at my freshman year, sophomore year of college. I actually taught at Mole High School for a bit, taught art there, which gave me the teaching bug. And obviously I never stopped teaching. I taught little kids how to draw for a long time after grad school, like I'll draw comics. And as a teacher, my number one thing is like you just, I think as artists, you can talk yourself out of it. So it's always just like, don't do it. Like, yeah, it's not gonna look as good as you want it to be. It's fine. It never does though. Like you never really feel like, and this is all art, and I don't know if I'm enough art to talk about this enough, but you never really feel like it's where you want it to be. So it's always like, don't let that voice stop you. I'm always like, just keep drawing. And the only way to get better at it is keep doing it. It's like the old free throw method. Like you shoot a bunch of free throws, you'll get better versus just shooting one free throw really well and taking all day to shoot a free throw. If you shoot it 100,000 times, you'll get better at overall at shooting free throws versus that one time you got it right by going really slow. So I teach this in my classes too, but I'm always a big fan of no, just get out there, throw it away. It's ugly, but just keep going. Like you just gotta. That's how you get better. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
always say just draw. Don't worry about it.
So are you one of those people that looks back at your published works and you go, oh, I could have fixed that. Oh,
Oh
I could
yeah, I
have
don't
fixed
even
that.
honestly. As much as I love them, I'm always like, oh boy, this is all not what could have. I'll be some pages, some projects come out better than others. So some things I really do, some pages I really do enjoy, how they turned out. And overall, I'm not saying I hate the work that I put out, so I don't want to get misconstrued there. And that
Oh,
it's just
no.
always yeah, well, the people listening, not so much you. And and I just want to make sure that I'm always improving. So I guess for me, it's all like, that could have been better. That thing that could have been better. Versus like watching, I'm using sports analogies today. It was like watching your basketball game again, and going back over all the mistakes. Even if you won the game, like I could have did better than that. I could have. It's old like Bruce Lee quote too, or Bruce like I beat that guy in 5 minutes. Could have beat that guy in 3. It's like, and so it's like one of those things with my art. And I was like, I could have got that better here and there. That could have looked better. So, but not overall that I don't like my work, but I do. It's just got to improve, I guess. And that voice in your head is always there telling you need to improve or it's not good enough. And I want to tell other artists, hey, yeah, it's fine. You gotta go.
Yeah.
It's only you get things out. If you just
Yeah.
you gotta keep going. Yeah.
That's similar to a guy that I was talking to that's written several novels. He's written like James Bond novels and stuff. He was talking about how first time through he just drafts. He gets the manuscript done, and he was like, I know people that stop on chapter 2, and you'll ask them like a month later, and they're like, still working on chapter 2, and it's like, well, that book might get here maybe a year from now, maybe 10 years. Yeah, but as human beings, as
Right.
creative people, there's that desire, there's that push to create, but then there's that self-doubt that's always part of everything that you do, I think.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it is there.
But normalizing it, I think, is also great as well.
Mhm.
And you do what you believe in, and you do what you love and enjoy, and hopefully
Yeah,
get
that is
a
also
way to
true.
pay for it or get paid for it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I do. I definitely do enjoy what I do. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll mention. I haven't mentioned any titles as of yet, but Pax Sampson, I think, is the first thing that I
Mhm.
discovered of yours, and then you have Alabaster. Oh, the title just
Shadows, Alabaster Shadows.
Alabaster Shadows. Yes,
That's fine.
absolutely. You have I Love Comics, out
Yeah.
there. Some of the work from a little while ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Thesis work. Yeah.
Jeremiah Justice is out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I know I'm missing something.
yeah, well, I've done I mean, those are some of the major things. I've done some Rick and Morty. I did a Rick and
Hmm.
Morty cover 5 years ago. 4 years ago, I did some Invader Zim covers around the same time. I've jumped around a lot. I used to do this old thing for DC called Zuda. Was a part of that. If you made it to the top 10, it was like a contest, but if you made it to the top 10, they paid you to be in the top 10, and then everybody would vote on there. It was DC Comics early foray into web comics, and it's long gone. There's some I think there's some Wikipedia archives.
Nice,
But
nice.
yeah, so I was part of Zuda, but technically the check still said DC on it, so that was a branch of them. Yeah. So those are some of the major hits. Like I said, I've done everything but animate. So I've done illustrate. I did a book called Hello Zippy, which is one of my first children's books I did for the University of Akron, Ohio. Their mascot. This is about their mascot. So yeah, you triggered this whole system of
The
memories.
journey.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like a
just like
game show. It's like I'm
yeah.
gonna start pulling people out and be like, "Do you remember working with?" Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I've got some things out there over the years. Pax is definitely one of the more recent books, my last graphic novel, along with my co-writer and creator Jason Reeves on that book, and that one was recently, came out a couple years ago now, written on 2 years. And we got some other stuff down the works. I don't know if we're gonna talk about it now or later, but I do have some other things coming up. But yeah, Pax Sampson is definitely like the current most fresh thing. Well, I think Jeremiah Justice 2 came out after Pax Sampson, but Jeremiah Justice 2 came out, Saves Camp, a little bit after PAX. So yeah, those are the ones that are currently out, more fresh.
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely recommend those. Recommend anything that your hand is on because I enjoy your style, enjoy your
Thank
art.
you.
Yeah. Do you have particular influences that you bring in to that have
Yeah.
shaped you?
Yeah, I think for me, as much as we talked about a little bit before with the Pax Sampson's influences, which is like a little bit of superhero, a little bit of shonen comics, a manga, and a little bit of fantasy. Those are always my big three with some drama. I like a little drama in there. But art wise and visual wise, it really still comes back between superhero and shonen stuff, where that's where most of my visuals come in from. When I was younger, I was really into this artist named Joe Mad. Did this comic. Well, he did X-Men for a while, but he's known for Battle Chasers, and he eventually turned it, he has his own video game company and all that. And but Joe Mann was a huge influence on me because he mixed the East and the West back then in the 90s and had like that anime influence, also had that superhero Art Adams influence, which is really nice. And I really like that. And I started bringing in more anime and manga as I got more into it, into my style, into my influences. And then when I got into college, grad school at Savannah College of Art and Design, like I started getting more into cartoony elements being added into my work, the more direct cartoon versus just those things. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of those three: superhero comics, cartoony stuff, and a lot of anime and manga. That's always my base. Like I think now it's like my primary base, but like those things all come together for
Yeah.
the visual style.
As
Inking wise though, I don't know. My inking is a mess. So I've always said drawing straight lines has always been a problem for me. But I don't know. I guess the inking is I take a little bit from the cartooning aspect more than anything. Like some of the what was the guys? Darren Cook was a big influence on my inking. I like the style that he did, even though I don't ink like I'm not saying I ink like or ink like him since he's passed away, but I do think the way those sticker lines that he used with his inking for strokes, I really like that. So more trying to incorporate some of that. I use more lines than him, I think, but like I still like how that worked. Like he did the DC's New Frontier, and I was a big fan of that inking style and coloring style actually from Dave Stewart on that. But yeah, it was. I think that's the major influences going on.
Yeah, I love that book, the New Frontier, and it seems
Mm-hmm.
like there's very much a like Batman the Animated Series kind of feel to some of that. I don't know. I was talking to someone and they were talking about how that series and some of the things that came out in the 90s that followed like similar trends kind of made the cartooning style more accessible, and it wasn't like, oh, this isn't just Looney
Yes.
Tunes. Like you could be an older, more mature reader and really dig
Mm-hmm.
into some of that and appreciate it. So there's a lot there that I appreciate, and I enjoy the kind of the animated nature of your style. I think it's just something that it's eye-catching to me.
Okay, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, well, it's just that style. It's like it's so weird 'cause you don't, I always tell my students that too. It's like I didn't set out to like make a style. Just kind of like, oh, I like this from this person, and I like that from that person, and my whole thing, I guess, is just combining things I like. Like I'm like, oh, I like that and I like that, and I'll just mix it out and try it out and see how it looks if you mix those things together. That's kind of, I guess, is how my creative process in general is.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a favorite stage or part of the creative process?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hmm. I honestly, I like when it's all done. When I call it sprinkling a little bit of Michael Bay on the project. So, which I tell my students, which is like the sparkly, cute, pretty stuff that you add at the end. Like just a little bit. You don't want too many explosions, but and glossy sound effects, but like or big effects, or or whatever lens flares. But I
Mhm.
like when it's all polished up, like right before lettering, where like it's just like it's done now, like it's complete. Like you can show it. It's all pretty. I think that's my final thing because like that's when it all comes together, and I really like it. It takes the least amount of time actually for that last part, but at the same time, it is the like the highlights, the glow effects. Those are the things I really like to add because you can really push it, and have fun with it. And any kind of glow sparkle things I'm really into. So I like putting that there when I earn them in the stories. I say I can earn them. Like, oh man, it's a time for some fire embers. I'm excited about that. So like those kind of things. That I think that's my favorite part. When right before it's lettered, that's my favorite part.
Yeah, yeah. I like that metaphor for thinking about it with like lens flares, like the J.J. Abrams, Michael Bay, like finishing touches. Love
Yeah, but
that.
just a little bit. You don't want too much of that. Like I always tell
Yeah,
people, you want to
yeah.
sprinkle it, like the little salt big guy. You want to sprinkle some of that. You don't want to you don't want to cover it in it. I mean, you
Mhm,
can.
mhm.
If that's your style. Hey, that's your style. But if you sprinkle a little bit on it, I feel like it balances out a little bit better. So
I guess there are people that appreciate like the fully computer rendered kind of look that people do, but I don't know. I like to see the human touch there. I like to see
oh.
the
Mhm.
design and the illustration and the style as part of that too.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because all my comics are digital now. Like, so nothing is on paper. I haven't touched paper for a book since Alabaster Shadows, to be honest. That's the last time I actually drew inked on paper. And
I'm
for
talking more
me,
like the auto-generated backgrounds, not necessarily like
oh,
the
like
digital.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, oh yeah,
there's lots
yeah.
of digital art that I love. Jerry Craft stuff. He does
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
digital stuff, and I love his stuff. And Gene Lun Yang does some of that stuff too. But yeah, I appreciate that. I'm talking more like I pulled this clip art over and that kind of thing. Sorry, sorry.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having that hand feel is important. I think even if you whatever device you're using to get it,
Mhm.
I like your personal touch is you. So as much as you can put into it, I mean, I'm okay with anybody doing whatever they got to do, but I do also like that. Yeah, putting your own spin and your take on it. Whatever, like I said, all these art tools are just art tools. So it's really just how you use them, right? You go back far enough, somebody
Mhm.
have been judging you that you bought paint out of the store, like you bought paint, you're supposed to make your paint. So it's just like, it's just like, that was a thing. That was a big issue. Just like we have issues now about different things. And to me, it's always like, how's it used though? How's it serve the purpose of whatever it is? Like, there's good and bad versions of every form of that. So it's just kind of like, how does it serve? As long as you use it to serve the story and serve, or in comics case, the story, but illustration, whatever. I feel like using whatever material. Because for as a while, like a young creator, I felt pressured by not using certain materials over others, and I feel like as we talk about the creative process, I want to like tell creators like, oh, whatever creative process works, whatever material works for you, try them all out, try everything out, and then and see which one you're better at. Sometimes you surprise yourself that you're good at this thing you didn't think you'd be good at because you thought you were supposed to be good at this other technique, right? You're like, no, that's what everybody else does. It's the greats do. They use this. I mean, that's like great for that person. It might not be great for you. Your best artwork might come through using a whole different set of tools. So it's
Mhm.
important to experiment with all those tools and then mix and match what you need or not and find out which one works best for you. I feel like that's the key there because all of it could be good or bad. So just figure it out.
It's a cool thing to see how people bring their inspirations in. but then also the different approaches that people take, the different, when people kind of push boundaries, when they think about different things, or, the first time you see a panel that even as much as a panel works slightly differently.
Right.
It's a very cool thing, very cool thing.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, all in service of the story. What's the part of that artist that's coming out through that?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm a sucker. That's my thing I'm a sucker for as a story. And I mean across all media that tells stories.
Mhm.
I'm just into it. I love stories. I love the choices people make to tell stories, good or bad. Like I feel like it's always intriguing. Living in the streaming era of TV, for better or worse, has been great for me individually because there's so much for me to watch from around the world that I just would not have got access to, and it's pretty affordable to me considering that I was mad watching these cable things and didn't have enough, like options for me. And then I feel, even though there's a ton of options I liked, with this, I'm like, oh man, I can watch shows from this part of the world, that part of the world. I can deep dive this and see how they tell stories here. I learned about things and like even like cultural things and how some cultures tell stories a little bit differently than what we do in the Western culture. And it's just, I I'm like addicted to it. Like, give me more. Every time
Yeah.
the new slate of Korean K-pop shows pop up on or not K-pop, but it's like K-dramas pop up on Netflix. I'm like, ooh, it's time to dive in. Or now they got a lot of ones from Africa and like different countries in Africa and posting stuff from there. I'm like, ooh, gotta watch those. Or a little Spain, Mexico. Like they got all these different some Danish stories too. Like, oh man, like Dark. Oh my god, Dark was with a German story. Oh my god, Dark. One of the best sci-fi stories that come out in forever. I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I get
And I'm
excited
also
about stuff.
I'm also thinking about how like streaming allows you to watch that whenever. Like if you're in a
Yeah.
mood and you're like, I need something creative, I need to get inspired to do this project, or just kind of, take myself out of the moment for a while. It's right there and it's in the moment and you can access it. Same with comics though. I mean,
Yeah, you're right. They might have, man, you're making these great connections. I'm like, that's maybe why I like comics, is I can pick it up and stop when I want and study something if I want and pause if I want and like then move on. I think there's a beauty to those formats in that. Man, I never made that connection. That's so true.
yeah, yeah. That's it kind of lives in that place for me because I started reading comics at about the same time that I've told this story many times on this show, but when the Tim Burton Batman movie came out. So in
Okay,
my
yeah,
head immediately I was like movie, and then you got the TV show that I discovered through one of my cousins, and then you got the comics and
okay,
then the novels and then
right.
the action figure, all of those kind of things. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a cool world to step into, and hat tip to creators out there that
Oh
put it
yeah,
out there, that take the things and share them.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And now inspired by your action figures back there, because we're about to talk about like upcoming things. I want to see like a Rashad Doucet Space Ghost story. I think I need that in my life.
I would
So
love that. Put that out into the world. I love the
yeah.
old that Hanna-Barbera cartoons, man. That is also a huge influence on me. I want to do what's the one that the dude had a dog and the dog would transform into a lion.
Yeah.
It was a whole thing. He's on a little scooter and then like
Mhm.
he had a dog. It's a Hanna-Barbera. Somebody in the comments might know. But oh man, I love everything from Space Ghost. One of my favorites. So I have a figure for Space Ghost, but oh man, you just got me. Yeah, 100%. Would love to do a Space Ghost story.
Speaking of action figures, one of my Batman animated series figures got the ears filed down and got
Um,
turned into a Space Ghost figure once
oh,
upon a
okay,
time.
got
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
It
Fair.
was an extra. It was an extra figure.
Okay,
So
good. Yeah, well done.
yeah, yeah. So what you have a couple of upcoming collaborations. I think Kwame is one of the people
Yeah,
you're
Kwame
working.
Alexander,
Yes, yeah.
huge award winner, bestseller. Been lucky enough to work with him and Cassidy Dice. Just announced not too long ago on this new series called Brainstormers, middle grade graphic novel series of these kids who come together to solve different kind of issues. The first one is by trying to get some money to pay for a phone, so it's kind of interesting to see them trying to solve their the multiple things that trials to go through just get enough money to buy the really expensive phone that they want. One of them wants, which is a classic thing. I think now, a classic thing for kids now. Like, I want the phone that I want. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been fun to start that one. I'm working on that. Literally was working on that right before we started. In the inking process on that now, which is great. And then in February, my next graphic novel, Art Club, will be out. So Brainstormers won't be out till like 2025, the first one. But Art Club is 2024, February. This one is about a kid named Dale who goes to a STEM school essentially, but wants to learn more about art, and he doesn't know a lot about it, and he's trying to figure out that that's what he wants to be a career. Like, he doesn't know exactly yet, but he's tasked with doing a paper of like, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? And just like, I don't know, I like drawing in comics. Everybody tells me drawing is like not the way to go for career path. So he does this big study and realizes he likes doing comics. So he puts together a team of other artists, and they get a sponsor essentially so they can learn about art, and learn that art can be profitable, that it can be a career path, and just as good as anything else in life. So he's in the comics because obviously he's kind of loose stand-in for me. He has a best friend who's also a basketball player, is also really good at like just pretty much good at just pen to paper, painting, things like that, traditional art skills. He gets a friend who's kind of like an environmentalist. She likes to do installations and throw her message in your face. So she's into that. And they have like a video game person who's like doing some low-key coding and concept art. So the four of them eventually team up and, make a studio together. And that's what it's a trial and tribulation of them trying to get that off the ground. Art club, yeah, that'll be fun. And then also just announced, also not coming out until 2025 as well, which I'll be busy working, is I Wish I Was a Baller. Me and Amar Shah. He's Emmy winner, Amar Shah, sports writer. He worked at Sports Illustrated when he was very, very young. And that's kind of like his life, about meeting all these 90s basketball stars, and back when he was in school, getting his first job, and writing about them is about his life back then. So that's gonna be super fun. Also coming out through Scholastic. So a lot of work to be done, but a lot of fun work to be done.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is lots of things for people to enjoy. You mentioned Kwame Alexander. I got to support. I wasn't one of the front runners, but I was a supporter of an author visit that he did one time
Oh, cool.
online.
Yeah.
And he is just he's a creative force. He's a compassionate force.
Right.
So looking forward to that collaboration. And I pretty much I try to read anything that has his name on it as well. I really appreciate his powerful verse and the stories that he shares. So
Oh yeah,
looking forward to
100%.
that.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good one.
And I mentioned on our first take of this that art club is most likely something that I'll pull in because I'm starting a comics club. I think as long as that
Yeah,
goes through, and I'll, I'll
awesome.
I'll have to start it in one form or another in any case. But
Mhm.
that'll be a great book to kind of pull in and go, hey, look at this and
Yeah,
check
there's a
this out.
how-to section in the back. Yeah, a loose
Nice.
how-to section. Yeah, kind of going over the process in the book, so it's not separate, not another thing.
Love
So
it.
it'll be
Love it.
part of the book. So hopefully it'll help it in that realm, and not and anybody teaching it or bringing it up in a class. That's that section to answer questions. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'll make sure to link your website. Any other links or anything that I should make sure to
Oh
drop
yeah.
in for people?
Both of my Instagrams, the main one and then my Super Toy Showdown one where I post my toy stuff. It doesn't have as many followers, but I'm gonna put more dedicated just to toy nonsense. So if anybody wants to see more of my toy photos, that would be that one. But yeah, the main website is great. And my Instagram, because I update my Instagram a little bit more than my main site. My main site needs to update with new art, but I'm always just posting whatever I'm working on, like the fun fan art stuff I do for myself, just to keep me warmed up and excited. I'll just do some fan art stuff on there and I'll post it on Instagram. So if anybody will see something beyond the pages, beyond the books, that'd be a good place to go.
Very cool. Your action figure pitch there makes me think I need to go back on Instagram. That sounds like a
Yeah,
good
I get it.
fit.
I know social media platforms, man. I know it's a lot, but I just use it for fun in this case, just to post some toy stuff. One day I'll get the time to really do my epics. I want to retell stories using toys one day, but I don't know. Like I'm going right back to where I was when I was a kid, but man, you got me thinking about all this stuff. But yeah, I'll get there one day. Right now, it's just some quick photos.
Yeah, cool, cool. I'm a literacy guy, so that's what I do. I'm like, all of this is connected. All of
Yeah,
these
I love it
stories.
actually. I'm a huge fan of it. Those connections blow my mind. I'm always like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but then people like me again and readers out there that are much younger than me can look at it, appreciate it, thread to it, and your work gets to inspire folks that are coming up too. So that's a
Yes, I
very
hope
cool thing.
that's the hope. Always pass it on, make it easier for somebody else. That'd be nice.
Absolutely. Well, Rashad Doucet, always a pleasure to talk with you. We'll
Thank you for
do
doing the take two on that.
anytime. I'd be glad to do a take with you any day, anytime. And I'll reach out and glad to have you back on anytime to talk about one of the upcoming projects or one of the projects that I'm sure will be in development after those.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.